All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're doing a detailed breakdown of one of the most explosive scenes in all of theater, Act 4 of George Bernard Shaw's Pygmalion. This is the tipping point, the exact moment a triumphant experiment just completely falls apart and turns into this bitter, deeply personal fight. So, what happens when the project is over, but the person remains? Let's find out. And we're going to start right here at the absolute emotional peak of the whole thing. This one line from Eliza Doolittle, it just slices through all that polite society nonsense and gets right to the raw, furious heart of the scene. This isn't the polished duchess talking. This is a woman who has been pushed to her absolute limit, and she is finally fighting back. So, how on earth did we get to this point? Well, the scene is set around midnight, back in Professor Higgins's laboratory. He, Colonel Pickering, and Eliza have just gotten home from the final test of their big experiment. And, on the surface, you'd think everything was perfect. It was a massive success. And when I say success, I mean a staggering triumph. This wasn't just one little party. It was a whole marathon of high society events, a garden party, then a dinner party, and then the opera. And through it all, Eliza was absolutely flawless. She didn't just pass, she excelled. She fooled everyone. The experiment, a complete 100% success. But back inside that laboratory, it's like two different plays are happening in the same room. On one side, you have Higgins and Pickering celebrating, patting each other on the back. But for them, the game is over, and frankly, they're already bored with it. And on the other side, there's Eliza, pale, exhausted, and completely ignored by the two men who just used her to win their bet. For them, it's done. For her, the terrifying part is just beginning.
And this line from Higgins, man, it says everything you need to know about his mindset. That feeling of relief, it has absolutely nothing to do with Eliza. He's just happy the boring work is finally finished. He's not treating her like a person who's gone through this life-altering change. To him, she's a science project that he just aced, and now he wants to put it on the shelf. The only thing he can think about is, where are his slippers?
And yeah, about those slippers. They become the spark that lights the whole powder keg. It seems like such a tiny, trivial thing, but it ends up symbolizing everything that's gone so horribly wrong. So let's ask the question, was this just a temper tantrum? You might be thinking, okay, she threw some slippers, big deal. But was something much deeper going on when she finally snaps and chucks them right at his head? Oh, it was so much more than that. It was a perfect storm of emotion. She was furious at his humiliating ignorance, his total inability to see her as a human being. She was terrified, wondering, what am I supposed to do now? She was so hurt by his coldness. And she was shocked, just shocked, that after all that, he'd just dismiss her like a servant. The slippers were the last straw. And that's when it all blows up. This isn't about slippers anymore, not even close. The argument dives right into the real heart of the matter, her life, her identity, and what's left of her future. You can just hear the panic in her voice here. Higgins has changed her so much that she can't go back to her old life, but she doesn't have the money or the connections to survive in this new world he shoved her into. It's like he taught her to fly and then left her on a cliff's edge. She's trapped between two worlds, and she doesn't fit in either one. And Higgins's response, wow. It is just jaw-droppingly brutal. This has got to be one of the cruelest lines in the entire play. He basically admits, with this shocking honesty, that he never once thought about what would happen to the human being at the center of his little game. To him, her future just doesn't matter.
Now, when Higgins finally does try to offer some, let's call them solutions, it just shows how completely out of touch he is. He's like, hey, why don't you open a flower shop? Which, to her, is just going backward. Or even better, get married. And to Eliza, who has always been fiercely independent, that just sounds like selling herself.
And this line, this right here is the absolute moral core of her entire argument. See, when she was a poor flower girl, she still had her dignity. She sold a product, not herself. But now, as a so-called lady with no money, the only thing she has to offer is herself in marriage. In trying to improve her, he's actually made her less free. And believe it or not, the argument gets even more intense. It shifts from her abstract future to the very real, very concrete things all around them. The fancy clothes, the rented jewels, and one very specific ring. So what does she do? In this incredibly powerful move, She tries to give it all back. It's like she's trying to shed this false identity, this costume that he's draped all over her. She's worried he'll think she's a thief, so she's trying to return the clothes, the jewels, everything. But this is the moment she goes for the jugular. She hands back a ring that he bought for her. Personally, this wasn't some rented prop for the experiment. It was a real gift from him. And by giving it back, she's not just rejecting the Duchess persona. She is rejecting him. It's a profound, personal, and powerful act of defiance. And for the very first time, Higgins just loses it. His whole cool, scientific act completely shatters. He grabs the ring, throws it in the fireplace, and yells that she has wounded him to the heart. And then he storms out, slamming the door. It turns out the detached scientist isn't so detached after all. Eliza finally found the one thing that could get through his armor. So, after that massive explosion, there's this quiet. And in that quiet aftermath, Eliza starts to take her very first steps toward real independence. After Higgins storms out, you know what Eliza does? She smiles. The script says she's glad to get a little of her own back. And that's huge, because for the first time, she wasn't just his test subject. She met him on his level, she fought him, she hurt him, and in this very personal battle, she won. And her last move is so subtle, but it's brilliant. When Higgins pops back in to tell her to pass on a message to the housekeeper, she just refuses. It sounds like a small thing, but what she's really saying is, I don't work for you anymore. It's her resignation letter. It's her declaration of independence. She's done. But then, Shaw leaves us with this final, confusing, and powerful image. After all of that, after rejecting him so forcefully, Eliza gets down on her knees and starts searching through the fireplace ashes for that ring. So why? Why does she do it? Is she just rescuing a valuable object? Or can she not quite let go of the man who, for better or for worse, completely remade her? We're left to wonder. And that really brings us to the final question, doesn't it? Eliza Doolittle proved she could be a duchess. She won Higgins' bet for him. But in gaining this new voice and this new identity, what did she lose? What was the real cost to her independence, her dignity, and her future? That's what we're left to wrestle with.